That's real MVP status right there, Cygnus. Thank you so much for all of your support over the last 22 months. It really means everything to me. Hello, Labcoat Cosplay. Hello, Music to Love. Hello, Mantis Warrior. Hello, Cyber Cyrus. Hello, Scarth Mahart. And hello, Michael, my master of memes. We're not at gender is a social construct. That happens at the latter part of the introduction. But yes, I hope you're all doing great tonight. Let's get some shout outs for Rowan and music. So shout out for, I'm just gonna do this the new fashioned way. Shout out music to love. There you go. Shout out Rowan VD. I think I put too many E's in there. Nope, I did. It was all good. So definitely go check out these two cutie pies. Send them lots of love. There's some good beans. I hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. My day was pretty low-key. A lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of working and twerking. You know the lot. I felt a lot better today than I did yesterday, so that was real good. Real good. You know me, always gossiping about D&D. I've been in constant conversations with my players about all the malarkey that happened on Monday in the session, so all very exciting. Yeah, the people have spoken. I had a vote on my Discord about what they wanted me to stream tonight, and so it was settled. We are going to do the Obsidia 40k lore rant. Wait, what is dedicase? I don't know what dedicase means. Hey, Pyrosaber, welcome. How be yous guys? Welcome raiders. For those of you who don't know, my name is Obsidia. I'm everybody's favorite Death Knight. What is that floating behind my head? It is a bone halo, made of the spines of my enemies and those I hug a little too tightly. Welcome. I'm gonna move this. No, it's better over here, I guess. Let's try to find a place to put my alert box. How was Hearthstone's but League of Legends? And hello, Dzentine. Welcome. I hope you be doing well, doing swell. Oh, dedicate? I don't know what dedicate means. Is that follow in French? Is that supposed to be follow? Or shout out, maybe? I don't know. Michael, your controls are also in French. I'm not going to know what French is. What is my favorite Space Marine chapter? That is a complicated question. The simplest answer is Black Templars, because they have the flat-out best and most baller aesthetic out of any Space Marine chapter. But in more detailed lore synopses, it's much more complicated. I actually have a very hard time picking a favorite chapter. Magnus, more like Magnus Sus. Hey, Alistair, yeah, welcome. Black Templars are goth as fuck, yes. They're Black Templars are an incredibly problematic Space Marine chapter for like a lot of reasons. Biggest reason being their fan base is generally very cringe. Because Black Templars look so cool, but they fall under that like kind of like alt-right neo-Nazi like thing that people jump on, in addition to like the Deathcore of Krieg, which makes them very cringe in the wrong hands. But me, as a flaming liberal, also really likes Black Templars because I think they look cool. No Nazi detected. I just think they look cool. And I actually have a similar stance about the Deathcore of Krieg. But probably my favorite chapter out of the Loyalists, who is like still around, it's hard to say. Raven Guard are definitely one of my favorites. I actually was starting to build a Raven Guard Horus Heresy army a while ago, but I ended up stopping because it was a lot of work and I stopped. Black Templar also doesn't really... Oh, Steel Legion. Rowan, you just became MVP in this chat. Because finally somebody gets that Armageddon Steel Legion is the best Imperial Guard regiment. I stand by this every day. And the problem is, they're so widely overshadowed by other Imperial Guard regiments, but Armageddon has the single best aesthetic, like, out of, like, every Imperial Guard regiment. And I will die on that hill. Much like a Praetorian would die on a hill. But yeah, you already got me in my 40k lore rants. I haven't even done my intro yet. But yeah. I'll go ranting about 40k in a bit then. We're just going to jump right into it. So what is on the agenda for tonight? First of all, gender is a social construct. Secondly, we're going to be talking about 40k. It's going to be my wild thoughts about things, as well as if you guys have any questions, you guys can let me know and I will answer them to the best of my abilities. As a point of context, I've been a 40k fangirl for maybe... Wow, thank you for the follow, Next FPS. Welcome. Always happy to have another spine for my Halo. I've been a 40k fangirl for probably over 20 years. I started with reading the novels back in high school, and basically just been doing that ever since. I actually did not get into the miniature game until like 2021. Like 2020 was when I started getting into it. So I'm like much more into the lore, and my particular area that I know more about is the Imperium. I'm not a Xenos player or anything. Imagine liking any regiment that's not Cadians. Cringe. I know. I like Cadians. Like, lore-wise, Cadians are cool. However, I would really wish GW would give me my goddamn plastic steel Legion boys. It's all that I want. It's all I want. Yeah, I read my first 40k novels back in 2005. I read the original Inquisition War trilogy. I read the Eisenhorn trilogy, and I read like the original Gaunt's Ghost books. Those were my first like 40k novels ever. And then in the years following, I've read about 1 billion 40k books because I used to read them daily when I was commuting to and from work, but once COVID started, I stopped because I didn't have to commute anymore, and then I just kind of stopped reading in general because reading is quote unquote for nerds. So I have a lot of book familiarity. I also have a lot of the role-playing game from Fantasy Flight Games familiarity, and a moderate amount of actual gameplay. But I don't know anything about 9th edition really. I know that it exists. I know very rough lore things about it, but mostly my knowledge comes from 8th edition to farther back. Emperor text-to-speech was straight fire when it existed. And it's a damn shame that Brother Alphabasa had to close it down because of GW starting up its own media channel. But regardless, oh yeah, Black Templars. So the thing that doesn't get about Black Templars is like, where does the Templar come from? Like, I never really got that part of the name. Like, they were black, yeah, that made sense, and like, but like, what temple was involved? Because like, the Emperor as a god wasn't a thing when they were created. Like, to an extent that Space Marines actually did anything about that. Sigismund did have, like, a direct connection to the psychic power of faith, basically, but It's not quite the same thing. I don't know what temple the Templars are actually referring to. I just know they look really cool, and they're really knightly, and I love knight aesthetic. Also, are the ribs that I wear from Olympus itself? Yes, it's from the millions killed by Perturabo. I promptly picked them up. There were enough lying around. Oh my god, I need to read Infinite into the Divine, because I frankly love Trazyn and Orkin as, like, goofy old men. Like, there's this great meme that was posted where it's this, like, this, like, NSFW artwork of, like, a gene stealer girl with, like, 3 arms, like, naked on a stripper pole. And it's got this caption, it's Trazyn and Orkin looking at her. And the caption is Trazyn going, "Oh man, I found this gene stealer woman, you know, giving 4 hand jobs at once. It was truly astounding. I had to preserve her for posterity." And Orchid just looking at him going, "You're a weird guy, Trazyn." That just, like, killed me. That killed me. I wish I could post it on Twitch so you guys could see the meme, but it is very funny. Especially when all the memes about Trazyn basically as, like, this, like, boomer fucking Pokemon trainer. Because he just travels around the universe just catching things and storing them in his Brainiac, like, preservation museum. Trazyn would 1,000,000% do something like that. Trazyn's a Pokemon master. Nothing will change my mind. But yeah, so, like, I read a lot of the Horus Heresy books, and, like, Horus Heresy novels do a good job of, what? Am I muted? I'm not muted. Can you not hear me? Pardon? People were... Oh, I was like, what? People were responding to me. I assume they could hear me. Yeah, basically, as a character, Trazyn is basically Brainiac from DC. He is a alien robot spooky skeleton man who's obsessed with just, like, collecting rare and artificial, like, lore things from across the universe over millions of years. And he stores them for the purpose of having them. Like, there's actually a moment, canonically, during the fall of Cadia where, like, Trazyn straight up just Pokemon summons various things from his infinite library. Like, he summons a bunch of fucking Horus Heresy era Ultramarines. You know, he summons, if I remember correctly, Inquisitor Greyfax was also in his museum. I don't remember specifically, but yeah, he's a fucking Pokemon master. He goes, "I choose you, Space Marines." Your 2D model lifts. But yeah, so Trazyn, I really, it was a lot for me to get used to. They, like, retconned Necron lore a lot in maybe 7th edition. I think it was maybe 7th edition. Where instead of them all being, like, soulless robots, like, they actually are, like, you know, basically space Egyptian, like, pharaoh people now, to where they actually retain, the higher up ones retain their personalities to a great degree. And if anything, that was worthwhile for 3 things. 1, Trazyn. 2, Orkin, and then Trazyn and Orkin together. And 3, the one Necron Lord who thinks he's still, like, mortal and is basically like fucking Don Quixote. Those are, like, my 3 favorite things about the Necrons. Hey, Savo Jude, welcome, welcome. Alex, I would 100% imagine Trazyn doing something like that. Yep. I choose you instead of I. But yeah, so like, but like when you read the Horus Heresy novels, if you read the ones by the actual like good authors, because 40K has a very mixed heritage of authors, where some of them are absolute trash, and some of them are actually very good, or at least if they're not very good, they're very entertaining, which can be almost as good. And I've got hiccups and it's killing me. So like I read a lot of books and it made me like a lot of Space Marine chapters that I originally did not like. I did not like before reading the Horus Heresy, but like I know ADB, Aaron Dabrowski B. He has a mixed legacy. He's not very good at writing loyalists and goes out of his way to make traitors like better and stuff. But I actually enjoyed the Wordbearers novel from the Horus Heresy. It made me like the Wordbearers a lot. And Argel Tal is my boy. I wish Erebus didn't do him dirty like he did in Betrayer. Thank you, Savo Jude. I appreciate it. I know I just wear it every day, but it's always nice to hear. It looks great. Oof. That's like too real, McFictionalist. That's too real. But Xandrek is great. He's a great character. Even if I guess he does have Necron Alzheimer's. I've never seen a 40K movie, Michael. I hear they're generally not great. I don't. Okay. So we're gonna go a brief spoiler moment from the book Betrayer in the Horus Heresy. So Betrayer is about the World Eater Space Marines. First of all, that book made me fall in love with the World Eaters and fucking the love of my life, Latara. God, what was her last name? Latara Saren? Maybe? I gotta Google this now. Yeah, Latara Saren, who is literally like Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars if he was a feisty, if he was a feisty British human woman. Yeah, Latara Saren, because she is just so fucking epic. She's probably one of the best, like, 40K female characters, and the amount of balls that she has is overwhelming. So, Betrayer made me fall in love with her, and firing the Ursus claws. But, yeah, fucking her, she has this incredibly, like, distinguished, she has this incredibly distinguished naval career, and all of these medals and accolades that she never wears. The only thing she wears on her pure white uniform is a giant bloody handprint that Angron put on her after she displayed incredible prowess and savagery in naval combat. And that is just so fucking awesome. And when she shoots a World Eater Space Marine in the head with her las pistol, because he refused her order, is just so good. And then, like, everybody coming out to bro with her when the uppity World Eater is like, oh, I'm gonna kill this bitch. So, Latara Saren, fucking amazing. But, in Betrayer, Erebus ends up betraying Argel Tal, who is he was basically, like, the main Wordbearer character from the Wordbearers book, First Heretic. And, like, he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. You like him. Even though he's possessed by a bunch of demons, boy. And then... But he's, like, got the biggest bromance with Cairn, future known as the Betrayer. And when he gets killed by Erebus, fucking Cairn, goes onto his ship where Erebus is, like, being just a cringy, charismatic dude, doing practice fights with the other World Eaters, and fucking Cairn just squares up with him, challenges him to a duel, and just does not pull any punches, and proceeds to beat the shit out of him. And every time he like tries to yield, Caird refuses it, and all the World Eaters around him basically keep shoving him back into the combat for Caird to beat the shit out of him more. And when he's about to kill Erebus, fucking Erebus has to like basically warp sorcery his way out of there because he was so scared that Caird was gonna kill him. And I'm like, God, I love you, Caird. God, I love you. Hey, JC. I'm doing great. I'm fangirling, my favorite type of girl. I hope you're doing well tonight. Oh, we gotta do a good girl for Latara Saren. Okay, I can do that. Oh, Captain Saren, I just want you to know that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking, and it's that you, Latara, yes, you are such a good girl. You're such a good girl. And there's nothing that can change that. There you go. Yeah, so that was like my favorite part of Betrayer. Like, Betrayer did have some ridiculous shit in it. Going with what I always say is like, the moment you see an Imperator class Titan appear in any 40k book, it exists only so that it can be killed in to show how powerful somebody is. Like, if you read any 40k book and there's an Imperator Titan in it, it will die. 100%. The most impressive one was from the book Titanicus, where an Imperator Titan shows up. They say it's going to be a big badass, and it dies in 5 pages of being introduced. Yeah, Latara got done dirty by the Horus Heresy. Poor gal. But yeah, so fucking Imperator Titans are a joke. Like, that one shows up in fucking Betrayer. Guess what? It shows up and then promptly dies. And it promptly dies with basically accomplishing nothing. That's like the most fucking 40k thing ever. Graph Yukiko! How many Dorns can fit in a Dorn? At least one Dorn, Yuko. At least one Dorn. You guys should go check out Graph Yukiko. They're a cute little wolfo. I love them. They're traveling around about the forest today, but they're very amazing. They're very knowledgeable too. If you ever want to watch their War Thunder streams and learn lots about actual military stuff, go check out the cutest wolfo. But like, actual Titans are cool, and like Titanicus as a whole was a very cool book. But I just get really mad every time I see an Imperator Titan show up because it always just dies. But yeah, so like the Horus Heresy books make you care about a lot of, like, one of the best Horus Heresy novels is, yeah, Storm Herald probably is the least done dirty by any Imperator class Titan, but that's like not saying much. Also, hello Ubu, thank you for the 11-month resub. Welcome. Hello Yarnyland. Yummy biomass, ew, Tyranids, cringe. How you doing tonight, Yarny? Why, hello, Ice Phoenix, welcome. But like, one of the best 40k novels in Horus Heresy is, God, what is it called? No Fear? Is it No Fear? No Fear, I think, is the, I think that's the Blood Angel one, which was not very good. What the fuck was the name of the Ultramarine one? No, Fear to Tread. Fear to Tread, maybe, is the Angel one? I don't know, but there is an Ultramarines novel in the Horus Heresy, which is amazing, and it did the best storytelling device for how the like narrative is structured, and like one of the best scenes in it is like, basically, the book is about when the word bearers betray the Ultramarines. And they launch the Shadow Crusade by doing a heckin' bamboozle. So, as a part of that, they basically cause a chain reaction of crashing ships in orbit into the docks above the planet and start, like, detonating them and everything. And, like, during, like, part of the scenes, like, a battle is happening, and straight up, like, Bane Blades and Shadow Sword, like, ultra-heavy tanks come raining out of low atmosphere and slamming into the ground like nuclear blasts. And that was, like, a really cool thing. Yeah, no fear. It was no fear. Oh, I'm sorry, Yuko. I'm sorry your internet is preventing you from listening. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're such a naughty wolf. Jeez. I would refute the heck out of you. If you could actually hear me. But yeah, I loved No Fear. I thought it was a really cool story, and the whole theoretical practical system of the Ultramarines was a really awesome touch. Also, like, the young Dreadnought was a really interesting perspective, because, like, somebody who was recently interned as a Dreadnought and, like, how terrifying it is for them was also really cool. Hey, Rosalia! Welcome, welcome! It's a cute gobbo. Oh, I feel bad for the Avatar. The Avatar of Cain is much like the Imperator Titan. The Avatar of Cain exists for the sole purpose of somebody killing it to seem strong. You know, it's rather tragic. Like, fucking one shows up in the Emperor's Children book, and fucking Fulgrim just beats it to death with his bare hands. Hey, Slaughter of Rain. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, poor Avatar of Cain. Poor Avatar of Cain. I like, this is gonna sound really heretical, chat, but, I actually like the Ultramarines, and Rabute Gilliman is my favorite Primarch. I know, controversial, but the bureaucrat in me loves that Rabute Gilliman is just a big bureaucrat. What is your superpower as a Primarch? I am the world's greatest administrator. Fun chaos books. Yeah, there are fun chaos books. Let me, of course, now you ask me, I can't think of anything. But, I like, also, I like Imperial Fists, and the book about the Imperial Fists right before the traitors invade the solar system, where they're fighting the Alpha Legion, was so cool, and it has fucking Rogel Dorn kill Alfarius, like the actual Alfarius, in single combat because fucking Rogel Dorn too big of a badass to get squared up by some sneaky bitch. And everyone likes Uriel Ventress. That's like, psh, psh. Fun Mechanicus, Mechanicum, Mechanicum in Horus Heresy is a really cool Mechanicus book about them being fucking nerds. Trying to remember other ones. Like, before I stopped reading, I was mostly reading Horus Heresy books, and Gaunt's Ghost books, and then the Adeptus Custodes book, or books, was actually really cool. Like, I'm trying to remember the first one. I think the first one is the first one Shadow of the Throne? Or God, why am I forgetting his name? I'm just gonna Google this. Custodes novel. Because there's only like two. Oh, the Emperor's Legion? Yes, the Emperor's Legion was really good. Because... Okay, so we're gonna get a brief tangent where I talk about Custodes. So, I like the Custodes. They're cool. If you don't like them, you're wrong. But, in 40k lore, like, especially in the Horus Heresy, the Custodes and the Sisters of Silence are like a yin-yang, basically. And so there's like every Custodes has a Sister of Silence as like his bro, his platonic bro girl. Hello, Keelie! Welcome! Oh my gosh, you're adorable. It's the cutest dragon. Be sure to check out Keelie. She's the cutest bean you could ever ask for. A not raid, shout out. There we go. So, they've got this platonic bromance with their Sister of Silence. Because the Sister of Silence is like the yin-yang to a Custodes. The Custodes is a peerless melee combatant and ranged combatant super soldier, but they're weak to, the fact of they can get zapped by psychic powers. The Sister of Silence gives them their anti-psychic power defenses that basically cause them to be a perfect team. So that system fell apart after the Horus Heresy for a myriad of reasons. But in Watchers of the Throne, you meet the Custodes, who's a shield captain, so he's like a high-ranking Custodes on Earth. But, like, his job is, like, he's literally a philosopher. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm a genetically engineered super soldier, but really, I just love talking about philosophy and government and, like, government design. And so, like, all he does in his spare time is just read and discuss and theorize philosophy. And he wishes that he didn't have to go out and beat people up with his giant halberd. Instead, he just wants to talk about philosophy. And he gets teamed up with the sassiest Sister of Silence. Because the book is told in 3 different points of view. One of them is the Custodes, I think his name's Valerian. One of which is the Sister of Silence, who I can't remember her name. One of which is basically the head secretary to the High Lords of Terra. And so, you think that a Sister of Silence, how sassy could she be? She's literally mute. However, she is so fucking catty in all of her POV. Because you listen to her monologue where she thinks Valerian is just like the most toolish of tools. And he's like so like ridiculously perfect, it drives her crazy. And so she's always very sarcastic with him in sign language. But like Valerian thinks that like they're the best of friends. He's just so dense, he can't comprehend how she would not like him. And so he just thinks they're the best of friends. So they're such a great team up because you get like these great points of view between the two of them. And then like whenever they're together, they're just so perfect for each other and also very sassy. What, they teach you that at Harvard? Hey, Aaron, welcome. Oh, I want to see something cool, a nice wiggly Sasha. You love wiggly Sashas. So those books were really cool, and they're all like set on Terra. So you get to get a real deep dive into what the shithole is of 41st millennia Earth. You did a great job with it, Aaron. Wiggly Sasha is very good. You're a very good Dracolich. Oh, we had a big Death Knight hug that I missed. I'm sorry. Alright, get your hugging utensils ready, everyone. Because I'm coming in deep. And a 3, and a 2, and a burr. There you go. A big Death Knight hug from me to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Also, hello, Theo. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, so those books are really good. The Caiaphas Cain novels are probably some of the best 40k books you could ever read. Because they're wildly entertaining, and the cast of characters are all absolutely ridiculous and amazing. And if you've ever watched the anime, what's it called? The, like, idiot Captain Tyler, it's literally Caiaphas Cain. Idiot Captain Tyler is Caiaphas Cain, but, like, in a different sci-fi space thing. And that's why it's so amazing. And Caiaphas Cain has, like, the best narrative conceit because they're written as the memoirs of the main character in a first-person perspective, being edited by his inquisitorial girlfriend, and her commentary is amazing. Every time she inserts, like, sassy footnotes into a page, it's very reminiscent of Discworld. If you've ever read a Discworld book, like, Amberly Vale writing commentary about Caiaphas Cain is basically like a Discworld novel. And they're amazing. Some of the best 40k books. Additionally, what's it called? What's the Navigator one? Fucking Jurgen. Everybody's porn-loving Russian man. The footnotes will also let you know that Amberly Vale definitely thinks every woman Caiaphas Cain comes into contact with is a huge slut, and she has no idea why he would ever bother talking to her. When he has such a beautiful and amazing inquisitor. God, what the fuck is it called? The Navigator book. Rites of Passage. Yes. Sorry, guys. It's been a couple years since I read a lot of these novels. Rites of Passage is also a very good book by a new 40k writer. It stars a very sassy old navigator woman, and you get a lot of insight into what the navigators are like. You also get a canonically non-binary Mechanicus Skitari, which is really cool. That was one of the first places where I saw 40k actually doing more efforts to represent LGBT people in non-cringy ways. There's also a gay administratum clerk, and him being gay doesn't really have anything to bear on anything. It's just neat that he's gay, and, like, his concern is that his husband, like, is taken care of, basically. But somebody previously had said, what about Slaanesh? I love Slaanesh. Yes, non-binary Mechanicus. And to be honest, non-binary Mechanicus makes sense, and I don't care what anybody says. It's a very logical, gender identity. Also, if you've seen the meme about having femboy fucking shoujo Skitari, yeah, Slaanesh, they're my bean. I love Slaanesh. Slaanesh is the Chaos God with probably the single best memes. Because and part of this was definitely related to Emperor's text-to-speech, because one of my favorite scenes in Emperor's text-to-speech is when the Emperor's trying to get Magnus's soul, so he goes to the realms of chaos and beats up all the Chaos Gods. And fucking Tzeentch is, like, bitching in, like, an internet chat room with the other Chaos Gods, and Slaanesh just pops in, fucking as, like, an e-girl, like, cam girl, saying, like, hey, honey, you should go check out my show tonight. And I was like, oh my god, this is so amazingly Slaanesh. Who's Obsidia's favorite orc? Does Gorguts count from Dawn of War? Gorguts is a baller. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Probably followed by what's his name? Thrak the Demon Killer. He's probably my second favorite orc. Yeah, put your credit card info. You can see my free cam show, Slaanesh. But one of the things that Slaanesh gets a really bad rep in the 40k fandom because a lot of innate homophobia just is attached to Slaanesh as a character. And Slaanesh is not just the god of sex. Everybody focuses on the sex part of the god of sex, but they are not actually the god of sex. They're the god of pleasure and the god of excess. So, in reality, Slaanesh's portfolio is a very wide range of things. And a lot of the Chaos Gods as a whole are... They encompass both the positive and negative sides of their particular, like, moral concept. Because they're literally generated from the thoughts and feelings of, like, mortals with souls. And so, portfolio for a second? It's a horfolio! That would be what I would call my autobiography. This is Obsidia's horfolio. Hey Luna! Welcome, welcome! It's my favorite cyberpunk knight. Very gay, very sword-carrying. So, like, Khorne, in addition to representing, like, crazed bloodlust, also represents martial prowess and also represents, like, martial honor and everything. As well as, like, a serial killer kind of mentality. Like, Slaanesh represents, you know, enjoying life and living life to the fullest and expressing yourself in enjoyable ways, as well as, you know, massive, let's make drugs out of human organs and, like, snort them as we like, bang a corpse or something. That's also under Slaanesh. And then, that's amazing, Rowan. That lore tidbit is amazing. An orc who travels back in time to kill himself to get 2 guns. Yo, it's NJ Chef coming off of his own 40k lore talk about Space Marines. This is like a stream of consciousness of just me ranting about stuff. And it's, yeah, and so... Space Marines! Hey, Nira, welcome, welcome. And then, like, Tzeentch represents, like, change, progress, innovation, ingenuity, as well as conspiracy, paranoia, and self-destruction. Fucking Nurgle represents decay and entropy, but also rebirth and life. Like, literally existence is a part of, like, Nurgle's domain. Hello, Sunrise Land. Welcome, welcome. Blood for the Blood God. And of course, hello, Christy, and this New York Snark Exchange. Be sure to check out NJ Chef and the Snark Exchange. They're a pair of amazing streamers who also stream together. Be sure to check them out. They're awesome. So yeah, but that, like, kind of yin-yang balance of something where literally moderation is the check on what means the difference between you being a good, normal person and you being a servant of the ruinous powers. So, I always find that interesting. Also, Slaanesh has the cringiest champion, which I think is bullshit, but I don't make the rules. Lucius is a person. Oh well. But yeah, so I really enjoy the way the Chaos Gods exist. Specifically in 40k versus fantasy. The god of sex is not just the god of sex. I know. You mean Screaming McArmor? Yes, Lucius exists. Lucius was an awful character when he was just a normal dude, and his Slaneshi superpower is the dumbest thing ever because it violates like an inherent aspect of like 40k lore where like the fall to chaos has to be a conscious thing. Like, you make choices that make you fall to chaos. Lucius's superpower is literally if you kill him and you feel even the slightest amount of pride in having killed him, you eventually just warp into him. He just pops out of your body and you become him. And I think that's so dumb because I think it violates that principle. Like, because there's no real connection. The fact that his very, drive to peerless, self-serving pride in bladesmanship was what made him become a champion of Slaanesh. Like, somebody was like, hey man, I killed this really badass champion of Slaanesh. That's like not like the same kind of pride that would be able to resonate with his background. And so I think it's really dumb. You have to kill him without feeling any joy. So something that is not intelligent would have to kill him, or something that doesn't feel emotions would have to kill him. So arguably, just a fucking Tyranid could eat him, and then it'd be easy days. Yeah, it's just stupid. It's such a stupid power. Factory worker turned into him. Hi, Marshall Helbrecht is a baller. Fucking straight badass. If you haven't read, if you haven't read Hell's Reach, all about the world's greatest Black Templar, what's the fuck his name? Grimaldus. High Chaplain Grimaldus. You are missing out on some of the most badass Space Marine scenes ever. Yeah, Jakero are great. Super technology orangutans that are really good at making micro weapons. That's their thing. But yeah, so I just hate Lucius. I think he's such a garbage character in every possible way. At least the other fucking Chaos Champions, like special character Chaos Champions, have like more personality and depth than Lucius. Like, Cairn is fucking Cairn. He is a baller. Airman is entirely dedicated to trying to restore the colossal fuck up that was turning the entire Rubric Marine, or turning the entire Thousand Suns Marine Legion into sand. Fucking Typhus, he was always a servant of Nurgle. He just continues living his best life. He's a guy who could become a demon prince, but just doesn't. He just loves traveling the universe, being an asshole, spreading diseases. Let's exploit the universe's rules. Yeah, Lucius would basically be Eric Andre. That's good old Slaaneshmas. I'm not gonna lie, like, my greatest dream when I was, before I started streaming was, I'm like, man, I want to be, like, a well-known enough 40k, like, person so that fucking, like, I could be one of the guest voices on text-to-speech. I was like, that's such goals right there. Like, my two things was be a voice on Emperor's text-to-speech, and then B, look nearly as good as fucking Norn Queen Alexis. Everybody's favorite 40k trans girl. Just like, oh, God. But I obviously am not that big of a 40k streamer or anything, so I live in obscurity, not able to voice things. But yeah. So one of the things that I find really interesting, which is a common misconception about 40k as a whole, is the way that the imperial faith actually works. Yeah, but I don't have enough like familiarity with actually like World of Darkness games or anything. Slash, I'm not big in the World of Darkness game community. Yeah, I know about TTS being on definite hiatus. And Luna, the book is Hell's Reach, which I think some fans actually made a movie of the audiobook of it on YouTube that you can watch. I don't remember, but Hell's Reach is really cool if you want to see Grimaldus beating the shit out of orcs and being a badass. But like, so we're going to talk a brief bit about the Imperium of Man. And specifically, we're going to talk about some of the misconceptions about the Imperium of Man. For instance, you got to understand that 40k is not a science fiction universe. It is actually a fantasy universe in space, which sounds strange, but it is an actual nuanced difference in the way that the setting is designed. Science fiction requires connection to science, really, and like actual logical scientific development. 40k, though, is all about magical bullshit, and its science doesn't actually make any sense. On top of that, the science is so little understood by people in universe that it's basically magic. So 40k is actually a fantasy setting, which is an important thing to understand because 40k at its core, it doesn't make sense, and you trying to make the science of it make sense is wrong. Thank you for the follow, by the way, Sunrise Land. I appreciate it. I appreciate another spine for my Halo. By the way, I should turn on some BGM in the background. Let me know how loud the music is, if it's too loud or too quiet. So, yeah. So another thing to keep in mind is that the Imperium of Man is a colossal entity which at its core is space feudalism in a very literal way. Because unlike, per se, the Galactic Empire from Star Wars, the Imperium generally has no idea what the fuck is happening in it like 90% of the time. And most planets will never meet anybody outside of their planet, ever. They literally will have an imperial governor, usually a dynastic person, but sometimes an appointed person, or sometimes like a council of people. And that person basically rules the planet as their personal fiefdom. And sometimes, like regional, like powers, like a regional lord, kind of like a duke in real life, will have to call up the services of his knights, which would be the planets in turn. And so that kind of works up this hierarchical system. And so because of that, 40k is really, really decentralized at its core. It has a lot of common cultural things from the way that humanity has designed itself, but it's actually incredibly decentralized. And what this partially reflects like one of the hugest misconceptions about imperial religion, because people will always be like, oh, X, Y, or Z thing in universe, that's heretical. Because it is like a non-stringent, like neo-Catholic imperial, like emperor worship kind of thing. Which is not the case. That is not actually how the Imperium is structured for its religion. They took a lot of influence from early Christian conversion work back in like the 300s, 400s, etc., where the imperial faith has like a very small core set of beliefs, and they will go to other worlds, other portions of space, and they will find whatever the domestic religious beliefs of that given version of humanity, and they will basically set it up as, oh, you guys worship the sun? Well, that's cool. Did you guys know you were actually worshiping the Emperor the whole time? Yeah, funny story, because the Emperor is the sun, and he provides protection to you all, and lights up your days, and makes your crops grow, and other bullshit. So as long as your religion isn't, like, outright has stuff in common with a chaos religion, basically the Imperium is incredibly religiously tolerant. Like, oh, your planet is a bunch of, like, backwards cannibals who believe that eating people is a way to become closer to the Emperor? I'll allow it. We're gonna keep our eye on it as a civilization, but, you know, it's good enough. It's good enough. So, like, that's something to keep in mind, is that, you know, basically any form of religion is actually a 100% valid interpretation of the Imperial faith, generally. And this also gets the Imperial faith in trouble, because for the same reason that basically anything can be rationalized as the Imperial faith, that means a lot of bad guy religions of chaos or gene stealer cults or whatever can basically worm their way into the religious systems of different cultures and start using that overall pretense of acceptability to start corrupting everything from the inside out. Because in 40K, there is an objective sense of right and wrong on at least a cosmic scale, because chaos isn't just, okay, that's another way of viewing things. Chaos is an inherent destroyer of the self. Chaos religion corrupts and mutates people on a physical and emotional and spiritual and mental level. And it's not something that you could have good people worship chaos. Chaos will always drive good people to evil. And by evil, I mean real fucked up evil. Genocidal killing machine evil. Rather than the Imperium, which is genocidal killing machine, but, like, not for the purposes of trying to tear holes in reality for monsters to come out of. But what if I'm built different? Well, you may be built different, but the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And that's one of the common threads about why, people who use chaos to fight chaos eventually always become the monsters that they had dedicated their lives to face. So, yeah. So that's just a note, like, the Imperial faith is actually pretty damn broad. And because of that, like, things that many would consider heresy, it's not actually heresy within 40K itself. Actual heresy in 40K is denying the Emperor as a god, and or, you know, worshipping the bad guys. Oh no, you have bad intentions. You're just cool and sexy. Oh, okay. Well, you got me there then. You got me there. But yeah, this is one of the things that I think the 40K role-playing game did a really, really good job with world building. Was establishing the Imperium as really a multicultural state with wildly different cultural norms, beliefs, and even languages between different planets. So, like, everybody is human, everybody's imperial, but, like, you from a hive world could be almost completely alien to somebody from a feral or feudal world. And I thought that was really cool, because it makes more sense. For an Imperium of 1,000,000 worlds, people are radically different. I actually ran a 40K role-playing game using the Fantasy Flight game systems over the course of 10 years It was a meta campaign, so basically every campaign we ran within the overall campaign became canon for the next campaign. But partially, I think the problem, fictionalist, with chaos role-playing games is, much like with evil campaigns of normal RPGs, it's very hard to make, like, to truly get people to have, like, a balanced kind of overall arc without them becoming cartoonishly evil. That's one of the problems that all evil games suffer from, because choosing not to do evil when it's convenient is one of the big conflicts that goes with being a good/not chaos worshipping person. Like, you have to choose to do something even though it is not the easiest, it's not the most expedient, nor is it necessarily the most efficient way of dealing with it, because the alternative is objectively wrong. And I actually played a great Skitarii in a game with Yuko. My Skitarii was Alpha Rochi 13, otherwise known as Arc 13, and he was the sassiest monotone Skitarii. And he would have the most hilarious, sassy conversations with Yuko's character, Vexa, who was a gender fluid, like, con man who did drugs, got drunk, and literally gave guys head on the street for money. And we were both working for the Inquisition, and it was hilarious. Sororities suffer from a problem of, it's very hard because they're not morally gray enough. It makes them difficult to have the same kind of dynamic character decisions that a normal, like, 40k inquisitorial party or whatever has. Oof. That feels bad, fictionalist. That feels real bad. You hate to see it. Space communists, green gene stealers, exterminators anyway, worst demographic, but darker, Egypt and whatnot. Yeah, kind of. Everybody in 40k is pretty garbage. It's just the difference is, like, chaos is garbage that is also, like, literally going to destroy reality. The Tyranids are garbage, but literally going to devour reality. But yeah, so all the factions are bad. I also love shitting on the Tau. Like, I think Tau are cool. Like, I like them as a faction, but I always love, like, just shitting on the Tau because it's hilarious, like, how fanboy people get about the Tau, being like, oh man, the Tau could, like, conquer the universe kind of thing. And I'm like, you do realize the Tau Empire is, like, the size of a very small imperial territory. The Imperium, which literally occupies the entire galaxy, fighting people. The greatest achievement the Tau ever did was defeating basically a minor expeditionary force of the Imperium by fighting them to a standstill until they were pulled away to go fight the Tyranids. So, I just find that very amusing. For the fact of, like, people be like, oh man, the Tau is so badass. I'm like, shit man, the Tau have a lot of really cool gear, but, like, they ain't shit. Also, the Tau have the greatest lore thing in 8th edition, where, because they recruited so many human planets at that point, they tried to make their own warp drive, but they made their own warp drive without inventing Geller fields. And so on, like, national TV, they broadcast like 1,000 Tau ships tearing holes in reality all at once, which caused a warp storm basically to hit their empire and devoured all of the ships that were about to teleport away. And then the Tau Empire was like, that was just a technical recording. Check out our new movie. And I just found that amusing. I also love when the Dark Eldar bamboozled the Tau by, so the Tau were over here like, we want to bring new alien races into our empire. We'll introduce them all. And fucking, they made first contact with the Dark Eldar, who were like, oh yeah, bro, send us all your diplomats. That's cool. We're totally interested in joining your empire. And then they proceeded to take them and enslave them and then promptly raided like a whole bunch of Tau worlds and stuff until the Tau eventually said, hey, stop. And I found that immensely entertaining. Also, the fact that the Dark Eldar are like basically space New Yorkers, I find very entertaining in the context of the Eldar. And the fact that like they protect their main city by creating pocket dimensions full of black holes in the warp to basically seal off warp holes, I also found immensely entertaining. Yeah, name one thing the Dark Eldar have done that's evil. I don't know. Maybe enslaving people and eating their literal souls by torturing them to the greatest degree possible, and physically mutilating them to become monstrosities for their entertainment. I don't know. That might be a little evil. When Eldar society was like, hey man, we've all gotten really corrupted by Slaanesh, and then maybe we should stop. And then the Craftworld Eldar became Amish and fled. The Dark Eldar were like, or I'm gonna build my own Eldar civilization with blackjack and hookers. And so rather than learn from any of their mistakes in the fall of the Eldar Empire, they just built a single New York in a portion of space that Slaanesh couldn't eat them in, and then they just continue to enjoy their thug life forevermore. And I respect that. I respect that singular unwillingness to change. Also the fact that they're led by like the biggest meme in existence, which also leads to a great meme where it's fucking Eldrad Uthwe calling what's his name? Arusabel Vect, the leader of the Dark Eldar. So like one of the top Eldar people calling the head of the Dark Eldar, and you just have this face with Eldred looking really disgusted, and the next scene it's fucking it's Vect sitting there drinking a cup of coffee while an Eldar woman is giving him head, and he's like, what, I can do both? And I found that both immensely entertaining and very in character. But yeah, so I love that shit. My favorite Traitor Legion, hands down, is the Alpha Legion, because I'm a basic bitch. I gotta love the Alpha Legion in the constant bamboozles of I am Alfarius. I just think they're cool, and I think the way they fight is cool. I like the intelligent, sneaky warfare style. I think that's neat. Alright, Michael, have a good night. Thank you for coming out. I hope you have a good night and the sweetest of dreams. World Eaters do be pretty Chad. Yeah, I guess that does make sense, Fictionalist. Although, I imagine... I don't know necessarily how it would work from Craftworld, like an Asuriani becoming a Drukhari, because the Drukhari don't use soul gems. So, like, what do you do with your soul gem then? Because presumably, isn't your soul stored inside of it? I will say probably the best Night Lords thing is the Carcharodon's books. If you haven't read the Carcharodon's books, they're fucking awesome. The space sharks are so cool as a Space Marine chapter. So when the Carcharodons fight the Night Lords, it's amazing because the Night Lords are all like, aha, we're so spooky, we're so scary. And then the fucking space sharks are just like, we're not gonna say shit, we're just gonna brutally massacre you, and we're just gonna keep doing that until you're dead. And the Night Lord's like, but, you gotta be scared, we're spooky. Okay, gotcha. The soul gem just sits inside of you until you're dead. I was just wondering, well, like, what stopped Slaanesh from eating your soul before you die? Because, like, the Dark Eldar, Slaanesh is always eating their souls when they're not inside of the webway. So, like, how does a normal elf then protect themselves? Because I thought the deal was the soul gem prevented Slaanesh from eating it. Night Lord's king. Although you say that, Sunrise, but one of my favorite books when I was a teenager, which is very much not canon anymore, is, I think it's called Lord of the Night, or Crown of the Night or something, but it's about a single Night Lord from the Horus Heresy who basically crash lands on an Imperial planet and single-handedly destroys this entire Imperial world, and it's awesome. Yeah, Night Lords are always entertaining. You feel great seeing them die, you feel great seeing them not die, and then sometimes die. It's just good to see Night Lords being Night Lords. You love to hate them. And then Sevatar. Oh, Sevatar. Sevatar, one of the greatest swordsmen ever in 40k. Also, rumored to believe one of the first Grey Knights. Funny story. I gotcha, Fictionalist. I gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. See, the Eldar are so interesting. Like, I don't like the Eldar really as like a faction or race or anything, but I do find them very interesting the way they've been explored in lore. Like, the idea that an Eldar can spend centuries, like, basically doing a single task, and the way that the Eldar psyche works, because Eldar experience feeling and emotions on such a profoundly deeper level than humanity is capable of, and they have so much more nuance to their emotions and feelings. Like, that depth of perspective, I think, is really interesting. Because, like, what we know to be, like, happiness or joy or whatever could be only a very small fraction of what an Eldar could experience as true joy, true love, etc. I think that is a really cool concept. Corsairs look cool, the rest of Eldar look lame. I definitely stand by that. They're silly, like, fucking conehead helmets are dumb, and I will always stand by that. Eldar Rangers, though, look pretty baller. So, that's a neat Eldar fact for you, and that's a rock fact. But, yeah, they're Eldar Banshees. I still think Banshees look dumb. They look dumb. They're a silly-looking critter. They're silly-looking hats. Striking Scorpions look okay, I think, out of the, what's it called? Out of the various Craft World, what are they called? Aspects. Out of the different aspects, I think Striking Scorpions look cool. And then, I think Dire Avengers look okay. I don't remember. How dare you not like Armor Tits? Armor Tits are great. And hear me out, hear me out. So this is gonna sound real controversial, but Armor Tits are 100% valid for 40k. And here's why. Whether you be the Sisters of Battle or you be the Eldar, armored tits are valid. Because, remember, what was the first thing I told you? 40k is a fantasy setting. And one of the very traditionally done things in real life for like armor in like the Bronze Age and everything, and in the Iron Age, was sculpting like basically a pectoral and abs on it. And so because of that, that's just like that is an aesthetic choice, and I think that it is 100% valid that Sisters of Battle or any titted armor out there in 40k can exist. It's not like, oh, it's so ridiculous. Like, no, it's 100% par for the course of the setting, and par for the course for it being futuristic fantasy. What do you mean that's not how that worked? Cite your sources. Also, yeah, warp spiders do look cool. I will give it to warp spiders. Warp spiders look less dumb. And what else was there? I also actually like Primaris armor. I think Primaris armor looks good. The Mark 10, because it literally took like the coolest parts of every other mark of armor and slapped them together. But Primaris Space Marines are a very interesting concept. I definitely warmed up to them in principle, because I think they do look cool. I think they do look cool, and I like them. I do think they changed the dynamics of Space Marines themselves for how they were kind of portrayed in the setting, but well, yeah, the Primaris helmet is based off of the Maximus helmet, which I think is Mark 4? I think that's Mark 4 armor is the Maximus helmet, which I think looks very cool. I think it's probably the best looking out of all the marks of armor. I actually don't have a problem with Call using Traitor Gene Seed. The ground? The Traitor Gene Seed thing, like, Iron Armor, I don't think I think Iron Armor is very overrated. I think it's very overrated. But like with, so Traitor Gene Seed, some of them have inherent problems to them. Like obviously Thousand Suns Marines had a literal genetic anomaly that was only curable via making a deal with Tzeentch. So that one probably shouldn't play with, even though the Blood Ravens are rumored, very heavily rumored, to be descended from Thousand Suns Marines Gene Seed. And then, let me see, like, a lot of Space Marine Traitor Legions, though, were, like, perfectly fine before they met up with their douchey Primarch. Like, the World Eaters, when they were the Warhounds, they were a pretty generic Space Marine chapter, so that's fine. The Death Guard were just a pretty generic Tenacious Space Marine chapter. That's fine. Yeah, I did notice the Sons of the Phoenix are literally barely changed from the Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children were okay prior to it, even with their various issues they had from their own genetic anomaly. Yeah, they were brutal, but not like fucking... The World Eaters were not nearly as brutal before meeting Angron as the White Scars were before meeting Jagadai Khan. Like, the Terra-born White Scars were incredibly brutal terror tactics guys. Jagadai Khan was the one who didn't agree with his Terran versions and remodeled them to be Space Mongols. Which is why the Terran sections were the ones that went traitor to him during the heresy. The Iron Warriors were basically fine before Perturabo was an asshole. The word bearers were also okay. I would actually say word bearers were probably better for modern 40k than they were for 30k, because their innate desire for basically religious extremism would be totally fine alongside the Black Templars, as long as it wasn't worshipping chaos. Like, their religiosity and fanaticism, I think, is perfectly fitting for the modern Imperium in a way it wasn't fitting for the 30k Imperium. See, fictionalists, that quote, not specifically that quote, but the actual quote from the book is taken very much out of context, because we, as the audience, know that the Emperor's children were pretty gay. However, in universe, in context, what he was specifically referring to was the various kinds of genetic enhancement that the Emperor's children was doing to make their people better. So that's what he meant by, you do a lot of very strange things to, like, your Marines. Not that you were banging them out, you big old queer. So, but because 40k loves its memes, that is the most common version of it. Yes, the Imperial Truth was originally written by Lorgar. That is an important thing to note, is that the Imperial Cult and the Imperial Truth were originally made by Lorgar. Memes, the DNA of the soul. So they would be fine. Night Lords were always kind of assholes, but like, terror tactics so here's the thing about the Night Lords. The Night Lords originally were pretty okay. And so, because they were pretty okay, it was only when fucking, what's his name? Conrad Kurtz started making them become increasingly psychotic via their terror tactics, and started just, once all the good ones either died or went insane, started literally recruiting absolute psychopaths to replace them, that the Night Lords became a problem. So I think the Night Lord gene seed would be okay. Do I think Malal has a place in modern 40k? I do not. I do not think that he serves any narrative purpose in modern 40k. And if you have a suggestion for how Malal would serve a narrative purpose in modern 40k, I'd be curious to hear it. Yeah, the Nostromo Night Lords were all psychos, but you know, a lot of Space Marine chapters or legions were fine when they were from Terra, when the Emperor was teaching them how to be badasses. It's when they started recruiting everyone else they started becoming problems. Yeah, but fucking Conrad Kurtz despised himself. That's another important thing to remember. Kurtz was a very complicatedly written character, and also very nonsensically written character. I've heard of the Rebutian heresy. That's the one that fucking 40k Theories wasn't it? I haven't read it, but I know of it. And then let me think, who else is there? Alpha Legion, obviously. Alpha Legion's fine because, you know, they are technically loyalists and technically traitors at the same time. So their gene seed wasn't the issue, and they steal most of their gene seed from other chapters anyway these days. I think that's everybody. I think that's about everybody. I think everybody's basically fine except for Thousand Sons. Yeah, if I had to pick, it'd be Thousand Sons and maybe Emperor's Children, which I would not bring back for a second run if I was Call. But I love everything about Call basically being like, hey, make me the Fabricator General of Mars, or of the Mechanicus. And Gilliman being like, Call, nobody fucking likes you, and I'm pretty sure you're insane. I'm not putting you in charge of the Mechanicus. The best face will always be Gilliman getting crowned by fucking Saint Celestine. And there's the look on his face of, well, the Imperium's changed a bit since my day, and I am not a fan. I also love the fan romance of what's it called? Saint Celestine and Inquisitor Greyfax. I think that's adorable. Hey, Rexokami! Welcome, welcome! Why do I still live? Welcome, welcome! How was Modern Warfare 2? I think probably one of the most hard to get used to things from me reading the books when they transitioned from like basically 7th edition to 8th edition, when 40k decided to be much more about copyright for its various factions, is having fucking Dan Abnett do like 23 books of the Gaunt's Ghost series, referring to them as the Imperial Guard, and then suddenly Gaunt having to say Aster Militarum all the time was like, oh man, this feels very weird and forced right now. Gotcha. Thank you for the lurk, Rexokami. I'm glad you had a good stream of Season 1, and I hope you enjoy your night. Thank you for the raid. I did, and for somebody said earlier, I did read the Ravenor books. I did enjoy Ravenor. I read the Eisenhorn books, I read the Ravenor books, and then I read the one Eisenhorn v Ravenor book, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, I don't mind Aster Militarum. I find it amusing because it's just so different in just vernacular from Imperial Guard. And if you've read so many books talking about the Imperial Guard, and then suddenly they have to start calling themselves the Aster Militarum, it gets just a little awkward. But I have no problem with any of the new 40k names. I think they're totally fine. Like the Azarani, the Drukhari, all that bullshit. I think it's fine. Like, not calling them Eldar versus Dark Eldar is very valid, and frankly, it's probably the right call, since Elves versus Dark Elves is like it's very kind of retro regressive way of referring to things. What was another one? Emperor's Spear is another really good book. Oh shit, I enabled head pats. I have to disable that. Because I don't have my hands. I haven't had my hands for a while. But thank you for the head pats, Dark Elf. I appreciate the head pats, head pats, head pats. I do like the new version of the Imperial Guard models and stuff. I think them, even though they are still just a bunch of fucking Cadians, I do like the fact that they're making them look like a bit more professional and a little less ridiculous. Always remember, the planet broke before the Guard did. I used to do that on Veterans Day as a way of trolling my friends, because I know I have a lot of military friends, and I get real annoyed of the military circle jerk thank you for your service thing. So every Veterans Day I would post up a picture of the fucking Cadian soldier looking at the exploding planet, and I would say, you know, never forget this Veterans Day that the planet broke before the Guard did. And that Cadia stands. I do like the in-universe acceptance of like, so Cadia blew up. Why are there still so many fucking Cadians? It's like, basically the entire Imperial Guard, like most of them, they just designed themselves off of the Cadians. So, yeah, even if you're not actually Cadian, you're basically Cadian. But that is something I enjoyed about like Gaunt's Ghost and stuff, was the detail that Abnett goes into in describing each Imperial Guard regiment as like, if a Guard regiment comes from a different planet, they are generally very culturally different than other Guard regiments, and they're equipped differently, they act differently, they have weird mannerisms and stuff. I always thought that was really cool. Yeah, there are other planets in the Cadia system, as far as I'm aware, that are still occupied, but like, the most people, like, lived on Cadia that had the Cadian identity. Because I'm pretty sure, like, I think Thracia Primaris, which was a big planet in Gaunt's, I mean not Gaunt's Ghost, in Eisenhorn, I'm pretty sure that planet is one of the chief planets of the Cadian sector. I don't remember though. It's been a while since I looked at a map. Since I looked at yonder 40k map. But the basic principle is still the same. Everybody's Cadian until stated otherwise, but I prefer Imperial Guard where every regiment is like a very different culture of people. Like there's one from Dark Heresy called the Brontine Long Knives, where their hive world was originally founded by Imperial Guard regiments whose officers formed the original planetary nobility. And so they developed this very hyper, like, nationalistic, militaristic outset and would settle all of their issues by basically sword fighting each other. And so, like, as a regiment, like, you were equipped like a normal guardsman, except they had, like, a bunch of knives and swords and shit on them. And, like, every one of them was covered in dueling scars. And having a scar on your back was, like, the biggest sign of disgrace in their regiment. And I just thought that was cool. I thought it was a neat cultural aspect. And then you've got things like when Imperial Guard conscript, like, a fucking regiment of barbarians from a planet. Or a regiment of literal, like, knights on horses. And I just love seeing, like, the cultural melting pot of different, or I guess it is more of a salad bowl of different Guard regiments, giving you reflections of what the wildly different cultures of these different worlds are. So, even if the Imperium can bring together an army of, like, thousands upon thousands of people, they are made from, like, totally alien groups to each other. Alright, Christy, have a great night. Go enjoy Yakuza. Bye! One second. I gotta drink water. I've been plowing through water. I've been ranting so much. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions, perhaps? Otherwise, we're gonna talk about, I guess we'll go way, way back in the 1940s. So, in the beginning, humanity done fucked up. Which is kind of actually a reoccurring theme in 40k lore. So 40k lore exists because we are 40,000 years into the future. And humanity already went through its phase of basically being Star Trek. I played the Dawn of War games. I played the fuck out of the Dawn of War games. I loved the Dawn of War games. Almost as much as I hated Dawn of War 3. But I love Dawn of War. That shit was bananas. I used to play the original Dawn of War game when I was in fucking high school, listening to the very first album of The Killers. Well, yes, technically the old one's fucked up first, but the old one's fucked up so far in the past that it's kind of irrelevant. Aside from playing too much with psychic power, you know, at the end of the day, it's far more relevant how humanity fucked up, and, well, I guess by association how the fucking Eldar fucked up. But so humanity already went through their worst Star Trek phase, and spoiler alert, didn't work out very well. It worked really well up until it didn't. And so that nobody knows exactly what went down, partially because GW has never stated explicitly what went down. Because one of the things you have to understand about 40k lore is everything is canon, not everything is true. So there's a lot of theories of different shit that went down in the past. What's the most orky color? Red. It's red, Scarth, because red goes fastest. That's why the Blood Angels have the fastest tanks. And so the human empire collapsed for a whole bunch of different reasons, and basically most of it devolved into, basically feudalism as all interplanetary travel shut down and people no longer had the support networks they existed or that they needed to be able to sustain their planets. And that went on for a good long time. And then the fucking God Emperor of Mankind revealed that he was actually Yu-Gi-Oh! And he has been watching over humanity since day one, when he was most likely created by a bunch of shamans combining psychic powers way back in early Mankind. And he became a perpetual, i.e. an immortal person. And he's been kind of like slowly nudging humanity along so that they could eventually hit the point of colossally fucking up so that he could put himself in charge, which is really kind of fucked up when you think about it. It's like Vandal Savage, but like even more of an asshole in a way. And so like he was in the backfield manipulating things to get them to the point where once everything goes to shit, he could bring them all back together. And so he, being a super powerful, immortal psychic being, set up shop on Earth, which, by the way, Earth all became an irradiated, nuke-ridden, near-oceanless wasteland, where most people were dead or devolved into, quote-unquote, techno-barbarians, i.e. basically Mad Max. They were Mad Max feudalism, was what Terra was, prior to the Emperor unifying it all up together. So, thankfully, through the power of science and more than a little magic, the Emperor was able to, in modern-day Anatolia and Iraq and Iran, create his own empire, beat up all the other warlords and chaos worshippers and eugenicists, and unified up all of humanity thanks to his glorious Thunder Warriors, i.e. Space Marines 1.0, still working out the kinks. The Thunder Warriors were all basically super strong, super crazed warrior killing machines that could like lift up a tank and throw it with minimal effort. However, they were all absolutely like blood crazed insane. And the Emperor knew these guys were some real grade A warriors. However, I don't need warriors for my coming campaign. I need soldiers. I need people that can be disciplined, advanced, and work together to unify the Imperium. So he ended up creating the first Space Marines as Space Marines version 2.0. I think we finally figured this part out now. And he was like, man, this is a great concept, but I got all these Thunder Warriors still alive, and they're not really useful for Earth anymore because they don't have anybody to kill. And so, yeah, he then had the Space Marines' first job be to kill all the Thunder Warriors. And then, like, pretended that, and just pretended it didn't happen. So, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. You're the goodest beings, and then the Custodes all murder you. Yeah, and, the Emperor had some very inconsistent philosophies when it came to making the Space Marines. Partially because this is not a problem of the Emperor, this is a problem of 40k itself, because it was written in a previous form and established all of its real tropes and everything prior to that. They kind of wrote themselves into a corner where they couldn't change the fundamental nature of some of the stuff that goes down, so it leads to the Emperor acting in some very ridiculously unintuitive ways for the way they portray the Emperor, as a callous super genius. And then, so how was the Emperor able to leave Earth in the first place? Well, thankfully, as the Emperor was about to set in stage his motions to take control of the planet, the Eldar Empire, which was an enormous galaxy-spanning empire at the time, they decided that, you know, maybe debauchery was the right way to do things, and a significant chunk of their civilization became Proto-Slaneshi, and the combined psychic nonsense of all of those Eldar being kind of assholes literally created a chaos god that nommed most of their empire. Now, this is a fundamental problem which exists in just about every narrative setting that deals with sci-fi and fantasy. And I've talked about this before in God, what was it? In some game I was playing, I think, or some show I was watching. But there's this theory about highly advanced civilizations, which is at its core, I'm going to call it real capitalist. And it basically comes down to this belief that a society that no longer wants for anything will always lead itself to debauchery and self-destruction. And I think that's a really problematic methodology because A, it inherently assumes that intelligent life, i.e. humans, needs to have conflict and needs to have basically social stratification and unequal balances of power in order to survive. Because if you leave humanity alone to its own devices, it will always determine, well, if I don't need anything and I have unlimited freedom to basically not have to worry about death or starvation or anything, I'm inherently going to use that freedom to start dehumanizing the people around me and torturing them. And I think that's a real problematic methodology. But that's ultimately what happened to the Eldar. They didn't need anything, and so they eventually turned to absolute decadence and destroyed themselves and created a chaos god who specifically loved eating their souls. But the birth of a chaos god apparently created enough galactic concentration of chaos power into one place that it made space travel inherently doable again in a way it wasn't before. Yes, it's a very Protestant Calvinist view of the world, that needing to always suffer. And I think it's really dumb. And I think it's a dumb trope that keeps existing. Because it's just stupid. Like, what is your end goal? Is just basically to have eternal suffering and conflict because, oh, what are we going to do if we're not killing each other? I don't know. Literally anything else. 99% of people don't kill each other in normal life. What do? You, like, play video games, and you, like, watch TV. You enjoy food. You bang your loved ones. Stuff like that. Like, so that with the warp storms around the galaxy cleared up now, the Emperor is able to start using space travel again. And he goes to Mars. They could simply paint plastic miniatures. You know, Perturabo painted plastic miniatures. The original 40k player. Technically, 40,000 years in the future, you get your first 40k player. Or 30,000 years in the future. So he goes to Mars and makes a deal with the Mechanicus, who became basically tech-worshipping people, where they use technology and they understand like a fair amount of like how technology works. They just don't necessarily understand the why that it works. And so that's like a big problem in human understanding of tech, is that inability to understand the why. Broke, endless conflict, dystopia, bespoke, post-scarcity utopia. i.e. Star Trek. Star Trek is a post-scarcity utopia. It still has problems, obviously, but the Federation as a culture is designed as post-scarcity. And so he makes a deal with the Mechanicus and says, hey guys, you got a lot of spaceships. I just recently showed up here, and how about we make a deal? I actually just bought Lancer in a totally non-subject matter thing. I did buy Lancer. I'm reading through the book. It seems cool. I might actually be into mecha stuff, which I never thought I would be, but it seems like a really cool role-playing system. And so he makes a deal with the Mechanicus. Also, like, Ancillary kind of tells them he's their god, and because it's diplomatically expedient, they kind of agree with it. But in early Mechanicus, the Imperium and the Mechanicus are like separate states that are allied together. Post Horus Heresy, though, the Mechanicus becomes a full part of the Imperium. They just have a lot of individual autonomy within it. But, is it everybody gets their own, like, fighter jet, or everybody gets their own, like, capital ship? I'm actually interested in that. So, they make a deal, and then they start conquering the galaxy, which, at the time, was not, like, super hard, because there weren't really any, like, big foes, but there were lots of aliens, and lots of weird cultures that had evolved in the interim, but thankfully, they didn't have Space Marines, and they didn't have tens of thousands of Space Marines like the Imperium had. And so they go conquering. Eventually, they meet the Primarchs. The Primarchs were the original genetic templates that the Emperor used to make the Space Marines. There were 20 of them. 2 of them are MIA. But Chaos intervened and basically said, oh shit, the Emperor is trying to destroy us. We don't want that to happen. We're going to take away his Primarchs and, I don't know, like delay the process. And so the 18 Primarchs got bounced around the galaxy into various shitty and or not shitty worlds, and they proceeded to make various shitty and not shitty decisions with those worlds. That's actually pretty cool. You get your own battle group of capital ships and escorts? That sounds pretty baller! And so, as the Emperor is conquering everybody, he rediscovers his Primarchs. The problem was, they were each designed to be like a very specific type of person in his new Imperium. And by him not getting to raise them, they all kind of went into various weird ways. Yo! Small and Strong! Welcome, welcome! Thank you for the raid! How was the rest of Fallout 4? Did people torture you more? I hope so. Hello, Took's Table. Hello, Arcus Gears. Hello, Pink Panic. Uwu. Welcome, welcome. My name is Obsidia. I'm everybody's favorite Death Knight. What is that floating behind my head? It is a bone halo, made of the spines of my enemies and those I've hugged a little too tightly. Welcome, welcome. I'm a variety streamer. Today we're doing a talk about 40k lore. Thank you for the follow, Commissar V. Thank you for the follow, Pink Panic. Thank you for the follow, Took's Table. Always happy to have more spines for my halos. No. Fulgur wasn't designed to be a narcissistic drug addict. He was designed to be, I'm pretty sure he was designed to be an artist. He was like an artist and diplomat,
Your penis is gigantic. Gigantic.
Oh shit, we
Your
gotta
penis
mute
is literally the biggest thing
mute
within the
sound for a second
tri-state
for the
area.
sound alert.
Your penis is bigger than a small elephant. It's bigger than, like, a tree. A big old tree.
In honor
Lots
of
of branches
Small,
on your penis.
We always
You
play
must
this
wake up
weird.
every morning and thank the good Lord above. You're truly blessed. Congrats.
Holy cow! Small, your penis is gigantic. Gigantic! Your penis is literally the biggest thing in the tri-state area. Your penis is bigger than a small elephant. Your penis is bigger than a tree. A big old tree. Lots of branches on your penis. Small, you must wake up every morning and give thanks to the good Lord above. You're truly blessed. Congrats! Everywhere I go, bitches always know. Small and Strunk has got a penis that he likes to show. What? Thank you for the follow, Arcus Gears, and thank you for the follow, Demi Deviant. Welcome, welcome. yeah, we're just having just a free range 40k lore. I'm just talking about all manner of things. Yeah, small always leaves a big impression. It always lays down that third leg on the table and puts you in your place. But yeah, guys, you should definitely go check out Small and Strong. He's hilarious. He's a very British little cat boy who is very well hung. He enjoys having you guys make him suffer. So if you want a streamer that you can just torture every stream, and he is not only about it, he enables it, go check out Small. Quite the ship poster, also making his own video content and essays, and is generally very funny. Go check him out. Oh yeah, I'm very hyped for Dark Tide too. But yes, I do know about the Interrex Dark Elf. I read the original Horus Heresy novels that established the Interrex. So, currently I'm doing a very, bare bones synopsis of the early Imperium, but if anybody has any questions about 40k in general, please feel free to let me know. And if you just have a subject you want to talk about, let me know. I'm just kind of freeballing it here. So, but yeah, so they did that. So he found all of his Primarchs, who, since they got raised in different cultures and had various shitty or not shitty childhoods, he kind of made the best of what he had and recruited them, and then promptly gave them a bunch of genetically engineered super soldiers who worshiped them as gods, and basically told them, go conquer the galaxy for me. Wow, thank you for the follow, Build Lancer. I really appreciate it. And what is that, a Vermintide reference, Fictionalist? Isn't that Saltspire? I always played Carillion. She was my girl. All right. Have a good sleep, Pink Panic. Please feel free to come by in the future. I hope you have a great night and the sweetest of dreams. So they conquer everything. Half the Primarchs were pretty decent. They actually had, shitty childhoods that they emotionally coped with well, or they had good childhoods and they didn't really have to emotionally cope at all. And then the bad Primarchs generally had shitty childhoods they didn't cope with, and or they had good childhoods they also didn't cope with. So I'm going to go down the line and basically summarize each Primarch and what their various childhoods were like. So, start off, Rabute Gilliman. He was sent to space Rome/Greece, and specifically Rome/Sparta. He was raised by one of the Spartan kings, basically, to be pretty baller. One of the other kings betrayed his dad, and he promptly led an uprising against the guy. And he used this to then use the fact that he was designed as the world's greatest bureaucrat and administrator to rapidly advance the technological and cultural standing of his core world and establish a domain of 500 highly advanced, unified, and near post-scarcity planets. So that was Gilliman's childhood, and he turned out pretty darn okay as the world's greatest bureaucrat. Then you've got Rogel Dorn, where you actually don't know what went down with Rogel Dorn's childhood. He just appeared one day in space with an armada from supposedly an ice planet and joined up with the Imperium. And he never really talked about his childhood, but he was good enough to become a king of ice people in space. So, he was designed as a great architect of the future Imperium, so he loved nothing more than building beautiful buildings. He also loved tearing them down and fortifying them. Magnus did nothing wrong. Oh my gosh. That was literally the that was literally the name of the stream. His childhood was spent doing taxes. Okay. Alright, well, since we brought up Magnus, we're going to talk about what Magnus did wrong. So, Magnus did do wrong, to be very, very blatantly clear. Magnus didn't knowingly do completely wrong, but Magnus was wrong, and the fundamental nature of his wrongness was because he was arrogant. Magnus is one of those people that always viewed himself as the smartest person in the room. And because of that, he always felt that he knew better than everyone else around him. And he, unlike the rest of the Primarchs, was actually in regular communication with the Emperor psychically. And Magnus's end goal was he was supposed to be inside of the Golden Throne to maintain the webway while he could, because he was a being of pure psychic energy. So the problem was Thousand Suns were a corrupted gene seed because he was an inherent psyker who was designed to be super psychic. And so their whole gene seed was basically destroying the Legion because they would start mutating uncontrollably. The more they used their psychic powers, the more they'd mutate. So Magnus, to avoid this, made a deal with Tzeentch. He didn't know it was Tzeentch, but he reached out into the warp and he found somebody who made him an offer. Basically said, hey bro, I can make it so that your Legion won't die out, but I'm gonna ask a favor from you in the future in exchange. Also, I'm taking your eye. KK, thanks. And so Magnus went into this knowing full well that he was making a deal with a potentially nefarious being, but he viewed the warp as something that he could ultimately control no matter what. Because he was so smart, he was so powerful, he was so capable. He thought that in the end, he could override whatever being he made a deal with because he's so smart, powerful, and capable. Now, in the end, he figured out that Horus was going evil. And so he was like, oh man, Horus is going evil. I gotta tell Dad. And so he did a big psychic ritual doing forbidden psychic bullshit because, once again, he thought he could control it. And so he reached out to the Emperor via trying to basically send a psychic sledgehammer at him. Now, the problem was the Emperor was busy building a webway system underneath Earth. And so, while he was doing that, that was blocking Magnus's access to him. Now, this is another important distinction. Magnus was doing a chaos ritual to empower himself to contact the Emperor. So it is also highly likely Tzeentch directed Magnus towards the webway as the barrier blocking between him and his father, when alternatively Magnus could have gone to his father in a different way. But because, once again, he was dealing with a chaos entity as his power source, it led him to the path of most tomfoolery. Now, Magnus was struggling through the webway to try and reach his dad, so he said fuck it. He made another deal with old Tzeentchy boy over there, since once again he thought he could bamboozle Tzeentch in the end, to basically Super Saiyan him to punch through the barrier. Little did Magnus know, he just slammed through the webway system, creating a big planar hole in it from which demons would pour out into Earth, and so he materialized, showed up to his dad, was like, hey bro, Horus has gone evil. The dad's like, what the fuck did you just do, you idiot? And Magnus was like, oh no, I just fucked up. So, yeah, Magnus did do very wrong. I'm just gonna say that very clearly. And he didn't knowingly do wrong, but he consistently did wrong because he thought he was stronger, smarter, and more powerful than anything he would deal with. Also, hello, Robert. Welcome, welcome. See, I don't actually agree with that, Demi. Specifically if you're talking about Magnus, because the Emperor was actually pretty forthright with Magnus about things. Out of all of his sons, Magnus was the one he was most honest about his aspirations. And Magnus knew he was basically the favored son in a way that Horus could never do. Because he was the psychic yin to the Emperor's yang. And the Emperor told him from the outset, like, bro, the warp is dangerous and chaos, and the stuff out there is dangerous. Don't fuck around with it. And Magnus was like, yeah, but like my experience doesn't show that. I'm really strong. I would always know what's best left to do. The Emperor not telling Magnus about the webway, I do not think is enough justification for Magnus's actions. Because if Magnus didn't know the webway was there, he was still going to try and barge through it. And even if he did know the webway was there, and he didn't know the exact psychic matrix of it, the fucking Zinch deals that he had made were always going to make him butt heads against it. And you know, like, in the end, Magnus felt really fucking bad for that, which is why he disabled all the defenses around Prospero when Leman Russ sent in his Sanction army, which, mind you, be very clear here, the only reason Leman Russ sent an army to kill Magnus was because Horus told him to. The Emperor did not tell Leman Russ to kill Magnus. Horus was like, trust me, bro. This is what the Emperor wanted. Leman Russ, being the good foot soldier executioner he was like, alright, checks out, fam. But yeah, Magnus did do wrong. And like, I like Magnus. I like Magnus as a character. I like the Thousand Sons. But I'm fully aware that Magnus is a creature of his own creation. Well, yes, the Emperor, like, viewing the Primarchs as basically toy soldiers, that he didn't understand why they viewed him as their dad and stuff, and he only acknowledged it when it was convenient to keep them compliant. But, you know, it's kind of like, the Emperor was always the way he was. It was the Primarchs that expected him to be something he wasn't. No, the Emperor had sent the Sisters of Silence with the Custodes. Like, because they're still important. Like, the Emperor just wanted to bring Magnus back to Earth to yell at him. But, like, if Magnus put up a fight, like a petty bitch, like, the Emperor wanted to make sure that Russ was equipped with the sufficient people to deal with that. But, yeah, like, the Emperor as a character acts fundamentally irrationally in 40k lore because the Emperor was never actually fleshed out as a character prior to recently. And so they were kind of stuck in the position of like, 40k happened. They need to justify it in world. And so the Emperor acts in a way, like, the Emperor, everything that the Emperor did relating to Lorgar makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But it has to happen because Lorgar goes evil. What the Emperor did to Angron, like with the way that he saved Angron, makes no sense. But he has to do it because 40k happens. So, like, you know, every time that people be like, well, the Emperor did this wrong and this wrong, I go, yeah, the reason why the Emperor did those things wrong was because he had to, because 40k has to exist. If the Emperor acted as consistently intelligent and objective as he is portrayed occasionally in the lore, 40k would not happen. But I don't know what to tell you, fictionalist. It is an objective truth that Horus ordered Russ to kill Magnus. Like, that's just a 40k lore fact. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so after that tangent about Magnus, so we went through Gilliman, we went through Dorn. Fucking, let's go to somebody somebody more unstable. So we're gonna go with Leman Russ. So Leman Russ was everybody's favorite Space Wolf boy. He was sent to a planet of space Vikings who raised him pretty well as a space Viking. And he also has the hilarious belief that his psychers are not actually psychers, which is immensely entertaining. Yeah, so he was raised by space Vikings. Had a pretty good God of War style childhood on space Viking land, and eventually unified all the space Vikings. And he was designed to be the Emperor's executioner. And it was actually theorized that he was one of the most trusted Space Marine legions for that various purpose. And he was also rumored to be the person that was sent to kill the two unnamed Primarch legions for various reasons. So he was always designed to be the vengeful fist of the Emperor. So that was his particular niche in society he was meant to fill. And so his childhood, pretty decent. He coped with it well. Vulcan was on a fire planet with fucking Necron robots and getting attacked by Dark Eldar, and was basically raised by like tribal smith people, and he bathed his hands in basically Necron living metal, and so he had that's Ferris Manus. Sorry, different culture. Vulcan was on Fire Planet where he was crafting stuff. Yeah. Sorry about that. I get my big people with hammers mixed up. I don't really like the salamanders, so he was on Fire Dragon Planet, where they were attacked by Dark Eldar. Yeah, they were a Dark Eldar planet. He ends up uniting his fire tribal people and defeats the Dark Eldar. He inherited the Emperor's perpetual nature, so he's like a big dude that is immortal, and every time he's killed, he comes back to life. I don't remember what niche in Imperial society he was supposed to hold, but out of the Emperor's aspects of personality and stuff that he inherited, he got the perpetual nature and being an immortal. Then Sanguinius is interesting. Sanguinius is interesting because he is the most obvious mutated out of all the Primarchs. He has literal giant angel wings. And he also inherited a good deal of the Emperor's psychic capability. He's supposed to be the fire chief. And he gets sent to the planet of Baal Secundus. I believe is actually the moon of Baal, not Baal itself. Where it's a planet of basically mutated cannibals, except for one tribe that is not mutated and possibly not cannibal. And he joins them, and they proceed to worship him as a god because of his big angel wings. And he ends up killing all the mutants. And all of his people are genetically tainted because he's, once again, a big old mutant. And so they're all bloodthirsty people and are very blood-oriented. And them controlling their blood nature is always a problem. But they're also very sexy, pretty vampires, so that also works. And Sanguinius is the least self-confident out of like all of the Primarchs up until the final days of the Horus Heresy, because he knows exactly how he's gonna die, so he's just like, I have plot armor, y'all can't do nothing to me. But until then, he's really self-conscious about the fact that he's a giant fucking mutant that is a literal angel, and the fact that he his legion of Space Marines are a bunch of blood-crazed vampires. And then when he dies to Horus, because he was inherently psionic, all of the members of his legion inherit basically his psychic death scream. And so they have a percentage chance whenever they get particularly angry before battle to basically think they are Sanguinius in the final days of the Siege of Terra, and they become the most PCP-ridden psychopaths ever, as they perceive everyone around them as Horus and the legions of chaos and proceed to massacre them all until they eventually go crazy and their brains fry. So that's the charming space vampire artist. And then you've got Ferrus Manus, who was on the planet of Necron shit. And he dipped his hands in Necron goo to get metal hands. And he's kind of an asshole. I don't remember the specifics of his childhood beyond the fact that he killed giant mecha worms in their planet. And he ended up, I think he was designed to be the Emperor's, like, craftsman. He was, like, the main craftsman guy. A lot of them were craftsmen in their own right, because, like, Fulgrim is also a craftsman. But, like, Ferrus Manus was, like, 1,000,000% craftsman. And also had a very homoerotic relationship with Fulgrim. Up until Fulgrim gave him head for the last time. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And then I don't know specifically what Lionel Johnson's role in the Imperium was, but he got shot into a chaos-corrupted planet where he grew up in the wilderness being raised by monsters and, like, eating chaos creatures for his whole childhood. And then he was taken in by a knightly order and raised there and became, like, obviously the world's greatest knight because he's a fucking 12-foot tall super soldier. And also the single hottest waifu by the one artist waifu occasion of all the Primarchs. That's true. You got me there. You got me there, Demi. I would have a homoerotic relationship with Fulgrim. Fulgrim is too pretty not to. The original 15-foot femboy. And so Lionel Johnson became the head of the Super Knights, and his legion went half traitor during the war because part of them got corrupted, and so he ended up spending a good chunk of the Horus Heresy killing his own bros. And Dark Angels are really awkward about that. They're like, man, we don't want to let people to know that, like, yes, thank you, Sunrise. Fem Lion is the hottest of the Fem Primarchs. I will die on this hill. She is giant hot knight waifu. What is there not to love about her? I think the second hottest waifu Primarch is Sanguinius. But, like, Sanguinius was always the second prettiest Primarch next to Fulgrim, so. I do like that Fulgrim is 1,000,000% gonna do an Ojasama laugh in his femme form. Giga-based. But yeah, so the Dark Angels are really self-conscious about how many of them went traitor, which is ironic because most of the Loyalist legions had people go traitor in them, but they're less weird about it than the Dark Angels were. But, you know, that be how it be. The Dark Angels took that shit real personally because for 10,000 years, they've been trying to fucking ingest enough copium to deal with it. Corvus Corax was basically the spy master, not the spy master because that's Alfarius. He's basically like the counterintelligence guy. He's like a freedom fighter bro. But he landed on a moon above a forge world that was basically populated by slaves who had to toil in mining resources and factories and shit for the Mechanicus people on the planet below them. And so he landed there and got taken in by basically like the planetary Mujahideen. We are not the same. So he got taken in by the moon-based resistance fighters and was trained to be a guerrilla fighting terrorist, which he did really well and won enough victories. They ended up taking a nuke and fucking shooting it down a space elevator to nuke like the capital city of the tech priests below, and basically made them his bitch. And so he dealt with a lot of issues, partially because his legion got the most massacred when the Horus Heresy busted out, and he had to become true terrorist freedom fighter man. Then who else is there out of the loyalists? Jagged Eye Khan landed on Space Mongolia that was fighting Space China, and alright, thank you, Fictionalist. Thank you, Fictionist, for coming by. Please feel free to come by again. Hopefully, I'll have my Darktide key as a Darktide creator tomorrow-ish, and so I can stream Darktide on Friday. Because I'm very excited. I've played the beta and everything, so. But I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to always come on by in the future. See you later. Have a good night and the sweetest of dreams. Yeah, so Jagged Eye Khan landed on Space Mongolia fighting Space China, and he was raised by the Space Mongolians and ended up destroying the Space Chinese. And that's kind of his deal. And then he became the Space Genghis Khan in charge of his Space Marines. Who else is left out of the Loyalists? I think that's everybody. I think I covered all the Loyalists. Alright, so Trader time. So for Trader time, you got not Corvus Corax. Oof, that's a Freudian slip. Conrad Kurtz, who is the evil yin-yang to Corvus Corax in a way, but also Alfarius is the yin-yang to Corvus Corax. It's complicated. But, so, Conrad Kurtz was designed to be the Emperor's, like, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and so he was instilled with a very strong sense of justice, and he landed on just, like, the planet of just, like, basically Judge Dredd planet. Everybody was super corrupt, crime-ridden everywhere, evil oligarchs everywhere. And he said, you know what? Fuck that noise. I'm gonna straighten this place out. But the problem is, when you've got a strong sense of justice and you're surrounded by people that are so inherently unjust, he basically learned that the only justice these people could understand is the hard way. So he became the biggest of terrorists and proceeded to murder everyone for even the most minor infractions of the law. And this led to him eventually being declared leader of the planet, and anybody who opposed him was promptly killed. And so he became a bit of a psychopath. And he was also given foresight into the future, which showed him that he was going to become a bad guy and die one day. So he kind of said, well, I guess this is my fate. Time to become an even worse guy. And so he ended up basically turning everyone in. His thing was, the world is bad, I'm bad, everybody must be as bad as me. If you are not as bad as me, I'm going to tear you down to my level, in essence. And so because of that, he was just the biggest psycho evil person. And eventually he was assassinated when his foresight finally came to fruition. Then you come to, I haven't fully talked about Magnus's what happened when he landed on his planet, but so Magnus landed on a planet of intellectuals and psychers, and he basically was raised by super psychers to be the superest of psychers and fight their psychic pests and stuff, and made the planet like super smart and enlightened and everything, and psychic powers were something to be cherished. And then eventually he had his soul fractured into 1,000,000 pieces, and most of them got nommed by his evilest piece, but one of his good pieces became one of the founders of the Grey Knights, so I guess that's a positive. And then, what's his name? Horus landed on a mining planet, like a post-mining planet, actually. It was a world that had been so thoroughly mined out that everybody who lived in it didn't really have anything to do, so they became these weird, like, tunnel gangs fighting for gang war territory and whatnot. And he landed there and promptly unified his gang and used his gang to conquer everybody because he was a super genius super soldier. And he became in charge of the Emperor's armies when the Emperor decided that he had other shit to do. And his thing that he was supposed to do for the future of the Imperium was basically be the Emperor's second-in-command, because he inherited kind of like a bit of all of the Emperor's personality traits to different degrees, and so he was kind of like the Emperor Jr., and so he was generally considered the most favored of the Emperor's boys, which led to him being declared War Master. Even though Sanguinius should have been War Master, but he was too self-conscious. Oh, nice, Demi. Yeah, I got selected for the Darktide content creator program, so I get a free game key of the Imperial Edition, which is pretty swag. But I've been experiencing a bunch of issues with that because the computer system of life hates me. So I hope to be able to have it soon. I'm like the only person who doesn't have their key yet. Thank you for the 20-month resub, J Dagu. I really appreciate it. Always happy to have somebody arise as a brave knight. Night, Aaron. Thank you for coming by. I hope you have a good night and the sweetest of dreams. And then fucking Mortarion landed on a stinky planet, a stinky chaos planet that was ruled by basically chaos mad scientists. And he was raised by like one of the evil mad scientists and was like, man, these people are all pretty pathetic down there on the surface. All the humans that are getting tortured and killed by evil mad scientist monster creations. Okay, Aaron, I look forward to seeing it. Have a great night. So his innate sense of justice from being a Primarch made him think that like, man, I gotta strike down tyranny. So he eventually betrayed his dad, who was a huge asshole, chaos mad scientist, and helped unify all the humans on the surface to fight against the monsters, and developed like power armor that had filtration things to resist the inherently toxic atmosphere, and he used that to basically kill all of the bad guys until it came to his dad. But when he squared up with his dad, he wasn't strong enough to withstand how stinky his father was, and the Emperor killed him instead. And Mortarion never forgave him for the fact that he NTR'd Mortarion in the moment of his greatest triumph. I don't know what his specific job was. I guess he would be like the Emperor's chemist, maybe? I don't know what his like role in the post-Imperium was. Psyker bad, bark, 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 bark. Of course, Russ is like Psyker bad, but also my Psyker's good because my Psykers don't count. And then Angron got done the most dirty, where he landed on a planet, he crash landed on a planet, and a group of Eldar saw him landing on the planet and knew he was going to become a huge asshole eventually. So they tried to kill him as a literal baby, and he still just killed them because he's a Primarch. But he got pretty fucked up, and then he got taken in by an evil slaver who installed some archaeotech into his brain, which made him go a little crazy with bloodlust and made him a gladiator. And he ended up being straight Spartacus and did a big gladiator uprising against all the slavers, and it went really well up until it didn't. And so he got backed into a corner, getting ready to make his last stand with all of his fellow gladiators against the bad guy armies. And right when they were about to do their last stand, the Emperor shows up, and as opposed to doing what would be the most logical thing, and literally something the Emperor did on other worlds, instead of showing up and using his military might to help Angron fight against these bad guys, he said, nope, teleported Angron out of the battlefield, said, yeah, man, I'm gonna let your boys die. That just be how it be. We're gonna make a deal with this planet. By the way, here's an army of super soldiers. I hope you don't hate me. KK, thanks. And so, obviously, Angron went evil. Like, there was no way he wasn't. Like, the Emperor, like, literally mishandled Angron in the dirtiest ways possible. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense for the Emperor as a character, and it makes no sense in the narrative. But it has to happen because 40k happens. So that's Angron. And Angron also has the rare distinction of being the only Primarch that didn't actually conquer his home planet. Yeah, Angron is a victim of bad writing. He got done dirty. other people, they made their fall seem at least a little tragic and stuff. Angron, you're like, no, this makes literally no sense. But, you know, whatever. Fucking, next we come to Fulgrim. Fulgrim landed on a shitty, hyper-industrialized planet of industrial decay. Basically, he landed in space Detroit. And he then promptly learned how to be the most capitalist executive ever. So in Space Detroit, he became CEO of Space Detroit Industries and learned how to make all of the old factories hyper efficient and resource efficient, and actually started rebuilding their society to actually be prosperous and successful. And he did that up until the Emperor showed up. He was just a really good CEO. Literally, it's like if the Emperor showed up on a planet and was like, well, Jeff Bezos, I guess I'm going to give you an army of super soldiers. The Emperor CEO. Yeah, basically. Then you get to Alpharius. We don't know anything about Alpharius and Omegon because Alpharius and Omegon were like the spy masters of the Imperium, and they were one soul divided between two bodies. So the big secret of the Alpha Legion was they actually had two Primarchs, not one. Even though Rogel Dorn eventually kills one of them, canonically killing one. But they were in charge of basically a mega space pirate fleet. And then they met Horus, and they joined up with Horus. Because unlike every other Primarch, the Alpha Legion didn't meet the Emperor until a little bit into their contact with the Imperium. They were the last Legion to be discovered, and they met up with Horus first, before they met the Emperor, which is one of the reasons why they went traitor. But they also went traitor because of silly alien prophecy malarkey, but that's a whole bunch of nonsense stuff from their book. But it's a cool book. It is a cool book. If you want to go to space Afghanistan with the Alpha Legion, read the book Legion. It's very good. Who else do we have? Oh, not Perturabo. Yeah, Perturabo. Perturabo landed on space Greece, but like just in mountains. And how about no? He landed in like space Greece mountains of like weird warlord people and was raised to be a super warlord. He was the Emperor's like head scientist. That was his job in the post thing, was like he makes and designs really, really cool contraptions and is a big math nerd and plays 40K. And he ended up basically designing himself a super suit and conquering his planet. And the Emperor was like, you're really good at math and science and like architecture. So unlike Rogel Dorn, I'm gonna put you in charge of like siege warfare because you're really good at it. And Perturabo was like, but I just want to make like cool gizmos and like make people happy. And the Emperor's like, no, I want you to just fucking, you know, kill buildings or something. And Perturabo took that shit personally. And so he was always kind of an asshole. But he also suffers from poor writing as for why he finally became a traitor Primarch. Because what made him go traitor was there was an uprising on his home planet, like right before the Horus Heresy, and he came back and was so pissed that they had an uprising against him that he ended up killing like 20 million of them and like decimated the planet, which also and he just was like, oh man, the Emperor's never gonna forgive me for killing 20 million people. And I'm like, shit man, the Emperor kills 20 million people on a Tuesday. The Emperor would not give a fuck that you put down an uprising on your planet. Like, doesn't care how many people you killed. That's like, you're a fucking Primarch. That's par for the course. So Perturabo was like, well, nobody will love me anymore. I'll join Horus. And Horus is like, cool, bro. Welcome to the team. And then Lorgar was crash landed on a planet of literal chaos worshippers and was born and was raised by chaos worshippers, but he kept getting visions that one day the Emperor would show up. And so eventually he led his chaos worshippers in an uprising against another chaos worshippers group and churned them to become worshippers of the Emperor instead. And He did that up until he ended up becoming a Chaos Worshipper once again. Full circle. Full circle. He's also the person responsible for giving you the Imperial Faith of 40k. So, I think that's everybody. I think I covered all the Primarchs. Party could have just been like, hey, can I have another planet to recruit my Legion from? Sure, here I have a selection of 500. Yeah, it's utterly nonsense. It's just bad writing. That's the only reason why Perturabo went evil. The actual justification they gave for Perturabo going evil was idiotic. The writing team who agreed on that should be shot. But yeah, I think I covered every Primarch. Whew. Alright, so that takes us all the way up to the Horus Heresy. And I think we're going to end here for tonight. My voice is a little strained from 2.5 hours of continual ranting about 40k. So I think we're actually gonna end it here. Turn off that music. Whew! I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. I hope you found it informative. I hope you enjoyed hearing me synopsize things and give you big summaries of large swaths of 40k lore. If you have any other questions, always feel free to let me know. I'm always happy to answer them. If you guys wanted me to do a part 2 of this where we go from the Horus Heresy into the future, let me know. We can always organize that. Ideally, this Friday I'll be playing Darktide, but that is all pending me actually getting my content creator CD key. If I do, we will play. If I don't, well, I guess we'll do Vampire the Masquerade instead. Alright, I want you all to know you're all beautiful, amazing, and valid people, and I hope you enjoyed spending your night with me nearly as much as I enjoyed spending it with you. And never forget the most important part, which is that the world is better having you in it. If you haven't done so already, please give me a follow here on Twitch, give me a sub over on YouTube. You can give me a follow on Twitter, and you can join our Discord, the Eternal Citadel, and be a part of our incredible community. With all that being said, I think we're gonna go raid my friend Jafar. He's playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, a classic. Jafar is a good bean. I know him in real life. They're very sweet. So please copy down the call to hugs if you're a follower. Please copy down the Knight's message if you're a sub. And let's go send Jafar some love. There we go. Alrighty, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night and the sweetest of dreams. Bye!